Okay, hi everyone, my name is Shiva, and today I'm going to be presenting to you Walter Lindstone, who is from the Ojibwe community. So, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your Ojibwe community, please?
Yes. So my English name is Walter Lindstone, but my spirit name is Kokomishkabewis. So whenever we introduce ourselves, when we're doing these types of meetings and introductions, we'll always introduce ourselves in our language. So I
Mhm.
say Abojo Kokomishkabewis Nadishnakas, Waprashina Dodem, Bawatina Donji Nishnabe and Dao. So what I've said to you is that my spirit name is your grandmother's helper. I'm from Bawating, which is Batchewana First Nation, and I am Ojibwe. So in our language, we call ourselves the Anishinaabe. And I also, have announced that my clan is Martin. And these are all very important pieces of an introduction. So I just wanted to make sure that you understand those pieces. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's very helpful. Thank you. So I want to talk about like specifically Indigenous rights. So, when did you first become aware of the issue and violence against Indigenous women and girls?
I have been aware of it my most of my adult life. I'm nearly reaching 50 years old, and I have been studying Indigenous studies for a very long time in university, and but also in my own personal work in my community. I work here in Toronto with Indigenous people, and I have a background in social work.
Oh,
So that, shares a lot of information about people that come to visit me in the hospital I work at. They People tell stories and they share stories. So I've been aware of it for probably over 2 decades.
yeah. So, how has like this affected the Indigenous families and communities in Canada so far?
It's deeply impacted our people in a negative way, and it really is very painful for our people to um, continue to listen to the losses of their loved ones.
Yeah.
And yeah, like in any community, in any family, when especially if it's somebody who's been murdered or they're missing, um, you're grieving those losses and you're trying to find a way to cope and find a way to get answers. So it's difficult because spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically, we use the medicine wheel approach to help individuals with healing. So when you are grieving loss and you're missing your loved one, it can affect you in all those four aspects. So you have to be able to find ways or find people that can help you to move forward with um, finding a way to uh, get answers, feel stronger, and find ways to cope. And that's not always easy. It takes sometimes a lifetime to do that.
Yeah. So, as I was studying like the cases too, I've realized that all the cases were like dismissed and not taken very seriously. So, do you think many Canadians understand the seriousness of the issue?
No. So some of the biggest challenges we face is systemic racism from colonialism, and Canada has a lot of challenges with Indigenous peoples, and they Indigenous peoples are always politically fighting to um, be stronger about their understanding and their relationship with the treaties that they've signed with the government, and to let the government know that we are not well, we are suffering. There are many issues that where systemic racism exists, and this is one of the main proponents as to the reason why missing, murdered Indigenous women, girls, children, also men are missing. as well, and are dying at very high rates due to many different challenges, many different reasons. But some of the biggest problems we have with the government are them not recognizing that this is an industrial problem, which requires industrial tools. And there's a tremendous lack of investment in helping us to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so even like when I was watching like the movie Pocahontas, I realized that how like wrong it was because they completely like destroy like the actual like history that happened. So what like misconceptions do people have of Indigenous communities? Because like movies like these like stereotype Indigenous peoples, which is like totally wrong. So is there any misconceptions that people have that you want to share that are not okay and need to be addressed?
Well, one of the biggest problems is our education system. So it is very Western based. It is based on non-indigenous values and beliefs, and then also our children are raised to watch Disney cartoons, who have actually stolen a lot of our indigenous stories and put them in their cartoons. And then our children watch those cartoons and see us in those cartoons as indigenous Aboriginal people dancing and singing cartoonish songs. And so there's this portrayal that this is who we are, but it's not true. Those are not the stories, the correct stories. So when you watch Bugs Bunny and the Wile E. Coyote, those are stories that come from Nanabush stories. They're old Ojibwe stories of a character who is one of the Nanabush is an actual ancestor from the beginning of time who gave us the language, Ojibwe language, and named all things on the earth in the language. So we actually have our own language that describes our stories, our epistemology. If you look at my background and you see the star world behind me, you can see we have a connection and understanding to our ancestors. We have our own language, our own stories, and our own belief system that is separate from Western culture and traditions. So Disney has also taken another story. I'll give you another example. It's called The Seven Dwarfs. So we have a story in our traditions called the Seven Grandfather Teachings, which is a very important teaching about how the sweat lodge came to us. And it describes seven different spirits of seven different value systems that came to us. And they've taken that story and they made a funny cartoon out of it. And then the last story I'll share with you is the Pocahontas story, which is a story about John Smith. But it's not the correct story. There's actually a deeper understanding to the Pocahontas story too. And one day I'll share with you what Pocahontas actually really means. So there's a lot of stories that you have to understand and try to decipher because they're not always the truth. So I'll just keep it short and keep it at that.
So, what would be like meaningful justice look like to Indigenous families?
Meaningful justice.
Yes.
So this is a big question. Um, One of the things that the biggest challenges we have with missing murdered Indigenous women, uh, girls, children, and men is that I mentioned systemic racism, but I'm also wanting to help you understand that there's a very important uh, topic called social determinants of health. And when you look at your life and you look at all the things that you have, a roof over your head, hopefully, electricity, you turn on the light switches, you turn on the water in your tap. Maybe you have a car outside, you can drive to work, you have a job, you go to school, you have a school close by to your home. You have all these good things, grocery stores, hospitals. You have pools and recreation things where you can go to and exercise. You have parks. wonderful parks. So that's mainly in the city. But our people, a lot of them live in remote areas in Ontario, and they don't have access to those types of resources. So for the greatest example, a lot of communities don't have access to clean drinking water. A lot of their water is contaminated. And one of the big problems that's coming up in our community right now is these gigantic data centers that are being built to support AI. And these data centers actually are being criticized for creating problems with water issues in groundwater and etc. So we already have a water issue, and now we're having greater water issues because these data centers are trying to be built. They need to build also new nuclear facilities in these communities. Those are also problematic. So, social determinants of health. We have a lot of issues in every area of our life pertaining to education, politics, the lack of we have a big challenge with not being able to politically govern ourselves in the way that we need to according to our old traditions. So we have old traditions, we have old ways of doing things, and then there's contemporary things that you see today. So these ways of understanding the issues are that we need to address them with industrial tools, and we need severe investment. But here's the biggest challenge with that: the money that we do get from the government to help support us, and although it's not enough, it's also a problem pertaining to the fact that the ingredients of what they give us. So I describe it as a pie. If you think of a let's think of a pie that you eat, that you cook. It's got all kinds of interesting things in there that the government gives us money for. And inevitably, sometimes that's food that we also have to eat. We eat pigs, chickens, and cows and other animals. We eat vegetables from the grocery store. We eat all dairy products. These things are not good for us as Indigenous people, and that's called the violence of benevolence. So one day you'll be able to research that word, and there's plenty of publications you can find. But the violence of benevolence is that they give us these ingredients, and we're forced to eat it, but it's not healthy for us. So we have to make our own pie. And I teach that in my life and in my work. I teach my people that we have to get away from government funding and reliance on their money. And we have to find our own way of developing our own pies and making our own food that was traditional. So I believe we have to go back to the old ways, and that's what will help us with this missing murdered
Mhm.
Indigenous women problem.
Yeah. So, besides like criminal investigation, what kinds of support do Indigenous family needs?
So a lot of people that I work with that are having struggles in their life, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically, they have a problem with their connection to family. So they don't have any family anymore. They have a lot of broken family connections. They don't have aunties or uncles. They don't have cousins that they're connected to, and they don't have communities that they're connected to. Often they come from the reserves and come to the city, especially because of the forest fires that have been happening recently. And they come to the city of Toronto, and then they struggle with connections, and they don't have family. So they really need that. You need community, you need family, especially healthy ones. You need ones that are um, living a good life. We call it walking the red road. The red road is a life of doing well, getting an education, working every day, being able to feed your family and take care of yourself. So, in order to do that, you have to be spiritual, and you have to live, a life of a belief in a higher power, and use your faith and your traditions to keep yourself strong. And these people, they need that. They're looking for that. So we create programs and services in the city at the hospital I work at, the Center for Addiction and Mental Health, we create programs and services to teach them about their identity, to teach them about how to be strong. We teach language, we teach we do spiritual ceremonies, we sing songs, we pray together, and we eat together. And we offer food to the spirits to ask for help so that they can show us a better life. So they want family. And that's a big investment because it's not just a 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. job. That's a 24-hour job. That's a 365 day a week or a year job. So you need an investment in creating family for them until they can get strong enough to find their own family or make their own family. So that's what we need.
So, so people often talk about reconciliation. So what does reconciliation actually mean to you?
Uh, Reconciliation is a difficult one. There are some Indigenous people that don't believe in the word. Some don't even believe in the English language. They feel like the English language is not our language, so they renounce it. And they believe that, what will change in this world for us as Indigenous people is when we can get back to um, being who we once were before colonialism. So that means governing ourselves from our old traditions, speaking in our own language. And reconciliation, though, is inevitable because we did sign treaties with the government. Not all Indigenous people, but my people, the First Nations people, the Ojibwe of the Sault Ste. Marie area, and I'm from a place called Batchewana Bay, which is Batchewana First Nation. We did sign a treaty. It's called the Robinson Huron Treaty of 1850. And this treaty is a very important piece of history because it describes how a chief at that time negotiated a sharing of the land, that we share together to live on this land in peace and we prosper together equally. Prosperity means all the resources have to be shared. So there's an imbalance that's happening with that right now. And what's important to know is that these treaties that have been signed all across Canada are not being honored. So that's why when you see in the news today, you see Indigenous people fighting for their rights. They are doing protests. Some of them, sometimes the Mohawks, they take up arms. And it's unfortunate because lives are then lost through wars. But we are setting precedents and letting the government know that we are still here, we are proud, and we believe that they do need to be respectful and work together with us. So reconciliation is about working together. We want peace, we want harmony, we want balance, and we want to be equitable, equality. We are not at the same level as the rest of Canadians. Indigenous peoples, their social determinants of health in every area is well below. So poverty, addictions, mental health, homelessness, all these issues, we are below the rest of Canada when you look at the grades, especially with children being apprehended right now and people that are incarcerated in prisons. We're overrepresented.
Yeah. So what I've noticed was like even like before I took my English course, I did not know I wasn't much aware about what was happening to Indigenous peoples. And after taking this course, I became much more aware. So what role do you think like us young people should play?
What you can do is exactly what you're doing now. You're interviewing your uncle, you are asking the right questions, and you are educating yourself. That is the number one thing you need to do. Education is the number one way to empower yourself and to help people. And understand that Canadians are treaty people too. All the treaties that have been signed with First Nations people, Canadians have also signed it, and they are treaty people with us. We are all together living here on this land, and we are all one. So, although there's racism and there's this separation and there's all this other nonsense happening, we have to come together and we have to be able to teach young people that this system and where we live today can be a better place. It can be a good place to live, but we have to work together and be in peace and harmony and in balance. And so we keep doing what you're doing educational writing, doing a lot more reading. I wanted to share with you two publications that I have so that you can maybe in the future be able to read more. So this publication,
Oh, wow.
it's a free resource you can get online, and I'll send the links so that you can share this as well. There's a chapter I wrote in here in this book. It's an anthology, and I wrote a chapter in this book, and it explains how somebody is to get connected to their spirit by acquiring their Indigenous spirit name. And I wrote out a story of my own personal journey that explains that. So I wrote this because I want young people to read it, and I want them to understand that identity is so important. The other book I want you to one day read, it's called, let's see if I can get it in here.
Oh,
Let's see. I'm trying to, there it is.
oh, there you
It's called The Reconciliation Manifesto. And this is called Recovering the Land and Rebuilding the Economy. Now, there's a gentleman that wrote this. His name is Arthur Manuel. He is a tremendous activist, and he tells the truth in this book. The book explains he's from British Columbia, and British Columbia is highly advanced. Their Indigenous people have been fighting the good fight politically for a very long time, much further than Toronto and Ontario. So we look to them sometimes for examples because they've been in the court system a long time, and they've been getting a lot of highly advanced rights. And his truth in this book is a really important one because he calls out the racism of the government
go.
system in Canada, and he spells it out with examples. So the government does not like this gentleman. They think he's uncouth, and he's politically incorrect, and he's a poor example of what Canadians are supposed to be. But he's not Canadian, and that's one thing you need to know as a young person. The challenge is Indigenous peoples are not Canadians, so they are actually a nation of people that are sovereign. They are of their own nation, and they have a language to describe who they are in their language. So
Mhm.
for me, I am an Anishinaabe. I'm not Canadian. I'm an Anishinaabe. And I have a treaty that describes the story and the importance and sacredness of my ancestors who signed that treaty. So just wanted to make sure that you understand that, and that there's some publications here that one day you may be able to read or share. And young people need to do more reading, learn
Yeah.
history. So it's very important.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I was actually reading the book Indian Horse by Richard Wegamis. He's also Ojibwe.
Yep.
And he describes about residential schools and like the brutality, and it really deeply affected me till this day because it brought me so much more awareness, and this is why I decided to take up the interview with you. So thank you so much. So despite the challenges, like what gives you hope? Like what still gives you hope?
One of the things that I wanted to end with or share with you the importance of understanding that hope is everything. And you need to have it, you need to believe it, and you need to have a higher power. When I say higher power, Christians call it God. In my language, we call it Gajamanado, which means great spirit. And it's the great mystery. You see it behind me in my background. How did we get here? How has this earth been created? What was the purpose and its design? And all these stars you see in my background are the ancestors. They are the ones that help us, help guide us. So we pray to them. We have ceremonies where we honor them. We light our sacred fires in respect for the sun. We acknowledge Mother Earth and the moon and the connection to water. And we acknowledge us as human beings in everything that we do. You'll see I'm wearing my ribbon shirt.
Mm-hmm.
This is a part of who I am and my identity. Right? Buffalo are very important. The colors on here, my blue and white, are all signifying my identity and my connection to spirit. And this is what keeps me strong and what gives me hope. When I hold this eagle fan also provides me strength, and it helps me to connect to the animals. The animals were our first family. They were the ones that greeted us here on the earth, and they were the ones that taught us the original instructions of how we're to live. If you notice one interesting thing about animals, when you go outside today, look at the squirrels. Do you think those squirrels need us as human beings? They don't need us. They go about their day looking for food, looking for shelter. They live in the trees, but yet we trample on them. We run them over with our cars. We don't respect them. And they don't need us to feed them. They don't need that. They need Mother Earth, and that's all, to
Mm-hmm.
protect them and to keep them safe. And Mother Earth provides that to them.
Yeah.
These are all important teachings that you have to understand, that hope is there because the animals are still there. The animals are still alive. That's why we have to protect Mother Earth. If the animals die, we will die.
Yeah.
So we need the animals. We need them because they're our first family. They're our teachers. And we have to learn to respect them more. So you want murdered, missing Indigenous women, children, girls, men, you want this to stop? We need to start respecting the animals, praying to them, offerings to them, and to stay connected with them strongly. So these are all very important teachings. So I create programs and services. I live my life every day as a spiritual man. I pray. I ask creation to always protect me, protect people, protect all of the world. We pray for that. So these are all very important things to be able to help your heart, help yourself to be able to get up every day, even with all the issues and challenges we have. We pray and fight the good fight. I work at a hospital. I work with my people. I keep trying to chip away at it and keep trying to make it a better place for us to live.
Yeah. So, what message do you want to give every Canadian student here?
Pretty much the one I just shared with you. What I wanted to make sure is to help you understand that it's an industrial issue that requires industrial tools. Have you ever seen gigantic mining rock trucks?
Yeah.
They're huge diesel trucks the size of houses, massive. And if you think about those vehicles, a lot of people have never even seen one in their life. You think about it, if a wheel gets disrepaired on that gigantic rock truck, the nuts and the bolts are the size of your head. Imagine the tool you need, the type of torque wrench that you need to twist that bolt off, the amount of power you need. Like it's a pneumatic tool that requires a tremendous amount of energy to twist that tool, twist that gigantic nut. And there are several on that wheel. And then imagine the weight of that wheel. The wheel weighs probably 2 tons. 2 tons. That's like over 4,000 pounds. How are you going to lift that wheel off and change that wheel and repair it? And that's just the wheel. There are many components and aspects to a diesel rock mining truck, right? So look at this analogy. the same as um, human beings and the challenges we face as First Nations people. It requires a tremendous amount of investment and energy to fix this issue. It is monumental, massive, tremendous. And we need to make sure that we continue to educate in this way and say that the small amount of money you're giving us is not fixing the issue. It is going to require trillions of dollars. So they should stop giving out mathematic awards like they've been just gave out and stop building these gigantic AI centers and start giving us more of that money to be able to invest in healing our people.
Yeah, absolutely correct. And yeah, thank you so much for your interview. And, it was really great having you and hearing your voice. Yeah, thank you very much.
I'm grateful to
Thank you,
you.
Uncle Walter.
I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful you're learning this.
Yeah,
And
I am too.
hard.
It's really
It's
hard.
hard because we're trying to adapt. Now there's this new concept that has come out. I'm studying it at university. I haven't even shared my credentials, but I have 3 university degrees, and now I'm doing my PhD program I'm doing at York University. And part of the challenge with working in the hospital is that they want us to do something called, it's a new concept. It's called two-eyed seeing approach. So two-eyed seeing means we want to use an indigenous lens. So this indigenous lens is the traditions, the culture, the language, the ceremonies, all these spiritual things. That's the indigenous lens. It's called our paradigm, the indigenous paradigm. This is all the things I shared with you in the video. This is my indigenous paradigm.
Mm,
But they want us to also use their paradigm, the Western paradigm. So the medical system has a paradigm. It comes from somewhere. If you in university, you'll get an opportunity to study paradigms, and you have to know the Western paradigm because your people have a paradigm as well, their own paradigm. And it's a belief. It's a belief, and it's ancestors and it's people who teach your value system, your ethics, your morals. Now, this two-eyed seeing approach, we don't know if it's going well. We want it to, and we keep saying it should be integrated. And there's some people like me that believe it's the only hope for us to survive. If we don't adapt and integrate, it really is our destruction as Indigenous people if we don't. And that's a sad fact. It's sad that we have to get English names, learn the English language, buy into their Western ways and culture, right? The education system you're in, this is what it teaches. We're teaching Western ways, right? And then they give you a little bit of Indigenous history, a little bit of African history, Indian history from India. But the model really is a Western based, European, Eurocentric model, right? So, like your dad says, you can decide. It's beautiful that you have the option to go back home. If you want
yeah.
to, you can. And that is beautiful because that's where your motherland is. Those are your people, and your cultures and traditions are strong there. I hope that we can do this peacefully. And that's what my prayers are always for. So it's great that you're doing this, Shiva. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
I'm grateful you were interviewing me. You're interviewing your Uncle Walter.
Yeah, I know. That's
That's
great.
good. That's good.
Yes, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.